None as important as the next one. So I think, what are we, 70-some days out? We have a very important election here where we have to get President Trump back in office. With that, my name is Sheriff James Custer. I am from Fayette County. I've been a member of law enforcement for 35 years now. I was a state trooper starting in 1989 until my retirement in 2011. So I'm in my 13th year as the Fayette County Sheriff's Office and my 9th year as the County Sheriff. Although I was originally elected as a Democrat in 2020 for my second term, I switched my party affiliation to Republican. I could no longer be a part of today's Democrat Party, a party that embraced socialism and the defund the police movement. And that was the turning point for me, was after the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis. As with all of you, frustrated of how diminishing and marginalizing law enforcement leads to trouble. It doesn't just lead to crime, it leads to entire communities deteriorating and disintegrating. Young and old people alike, big and small businesses, and people's way of life as a whole cannot withstand the epidemic of violent crime. We've seen this in the cities across America, including right here in Pittsburgh. That's why we gather here today. We're here to talk about how rising crime, fueled by soft on crime policies, is taking a toll on Pittsburgh and us here in Western Pennsylvania. This is an issue that we absolutely cannot ignore. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today to talk about this critical issue. I'd like to start by having each member of the panel introduce yourselves with your name and a little bit about yourself. Start over here with you, Dr. Hayner.
Yes, my name is Christopher Hayner. I'm a dentist. I was in downtown Pittsburgh for 20 years, right on 7th Avenue and Smithfield Street. 2022, I knew that I had to move for the safety of my patients, my staff, and myself. That's kind of how I started to get involved with this, with acting the police and getting some more law and order downtown.
My name is Tim Davis. I'm here representing Fraternal Order Police Watch Number 1. I've been with the city for about 10 years and all the way to which I'm now my party now.
Rich, jump us to.
County Councilman Sam DeMarco here at Executive Office as the at-large representative on Allegheny County Council since 2016, representing all 1.25 million people here in Allegheny County. I'm very concerned about the direction this region is taking as it relates to crime and support for law enforcement.
Todd McCollum, I'm a retired City of Pittsburgh police officer. I spent 15 years in law enforcement. Of course, some health problems kicked into me. 11 with the city and 4 with the local community in the Mon Valley. Because of the growing problems that we have in the city and in the administration that was over time let the city go down.
Hi, I'm Claire Crow. I run our community group, Southside Kids, which was founded in 2018. We work to attract our teen families to the Southside, Pittsburgh at large. So I'm here today to make sure we can work to keep our city safe for kids.
And I'm Erin Cooper. I'm a longtime resident of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a community organizer in the neighborhood of Elliott in Pittsburgh's West End. I'm also the president of the Allegheny County Council of Republican Women, and I recently spoke on crime, the soft on crime Democrat policies at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee.
Thank you all, and thanks for taking the time to be with us this afternoon. Let's get started by talking about how crime has affected businesses and commerce here in Pittsburgh. I know we have a couple of business leaders with us today. Could you folks shed some light on what your experience has been trying to run your business with crime? What effects have you experienced, and how have you had to respond? Rich, we'll start with you.
The crime started about 4 years ago, and the city's effort to fund the police through attrition has caused great harm to Southside. after the meeting, I hope to everybody just walk down the street with us to see all the vacant buildings, the boarded up buildings, the buildings that have burned and aren't being rehabbed because no one wants to invest into the prime area. What we need to do is expose the problem that the administration and mayor are doing to the people of Pittsburgh in terms of lack of police. Yesterday we had a call. We only had 4 officers in the whole zone 4 yesterday. And it's probably the same amount today when you pop up shot today and pop up ran over today and get me. And this lack of initiative by the mayor and the administration is putting everybody at harm. The police, the citizens, everybody's at harm because of the lack of leadership through the administration.
Thank you, Rich. Dr. Scott? Dr. Gainey, I'm sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so my experience was a little bit different. I was downtown for 20 years and I saw it when it was really nice and it was safe. I just had a conversation. We used to go walk through the alleyways, middle of the night, no crime, nothing to scare of, didn't smell bad. But I started in 2019, the random killing on 6th Avenue in front of the churches there at a bus stop. And you never heard about that downtown, just in the middle of the day. And then every 2 weeks after that, there seemed to be a knife incident, and it just seemed like it kept on growing. I believe that Menudo, he said that he kind of opened it up for the homeless and the drugs. As he said, if you didn't want to see homeless people, go to the mall because they have too much right on the property that you did, which is all good and fine, but them doing open drugs and selling drugs, using drugs, normalizing drugs, overdoses, making everybody feel uncomfortable. I ultimately ended up moving because of the safety of my staff and my patients. I had multiple patients get solicited for sex. I had patients always anxious whenever they came in. I'm very humbled that they still stayed with me. Since I recently moved and I've seen them for about 2 months in my new office, I'd probably say 20 females said to me, this is the first time in 3 years that I came to a dental appointment, pulled into the parking garage, and was not anxious. And that's saying a lot about the condition of downtown and how you could ever want anybody to go down there or think people that go down there voluntarily. So I just think that there needs to be a lot more police presence, a lot more people backing the police up, the administration and judges, and getting this back kind of where it was. People like to say pandemic, but it was before that, like pre-2009.
I was going to ask you what time period that
It was
was.
definitely definitively before pandemic. People like to blame it on pandemic, but it was really the policies of Menudo, hands off, normalizing open drug use. I mean, I can't tell you how many patients would say that there's an overdose out front, or there's a naked guy out front of my office, and it would happen constantly. It's not that the police don't want to do anything, it's just really having anybody back from them.
Right. Now, did you move your business?
I did.
When Mayor Peduto was still in office, or was this?
No, so my lease was up whenever Gainey had just gone into office, kind of. So I started moving my business about 2 years ago because the writing was on the wall instead of extending the lease. But it took 2 years to move it. But in those 2 years, it got significantly worse now, especially in my corridor, which is between 6th and 7th Avenue on Smithfield Street. That was kind of ground zero, and it was, patients were scared all the time, and staff was scared. And it was just a sad state. So I did move it. I moved it to the Strip District. It's much better now.
Good. That's good to hear. Have you had as much police interaction or any more reason to call, or that area's been fine?
I've been very
Well, that's good to hear. Is there anybody else, business owner or anyone that'd like to add to that? If not, we'll go to, let's broaden out here to other civilian members of the community. Do your communities feel safe? How so and why? And what steps have you had to take in the absence of effective leadership here? Let's go with Eric.
Thank you for letting me answer on this. because this really is true. Me, I had a front row seat to the crime and chaos that these soft-on-crime Democrat policies have bestowed on us. I wanted to give a shout out though to the Zone 6 police. They have done tremendous work in my neighborhood. They have been working with our community, and they come to all our meetings, and they talk to us, they give us tips on how to keep each other safe. But it's when it hits your front doorstep, when they're casing your home in broad daylight, and these are people who are clearly on drugs. They tell you that they are, and you can see it. When you wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. to a moaning sound outside your bedroom window, and you see a man who is struggling, foaming at the mouth, and banging his head on your retaining wall, then hanging over in that zombie stance with his arms dangling, who's clearly on drugs. Do you feel safe? No. The same week, I saw a man, different one, 11 a.m., getting my mail out of my mailbox, on my sidewalk, doing the same thing. My neighbors were coming out saying, what can we do? We called our police. They acted. Since all of this has happened last year, we stood up. We started having our meetings in the LA community group. We work with our councilwoman, who is Big Liz, and we have a Band-Aid on it for now. But what are we going to do moving forward? You know, it's better right now because we stood up. The law-abiding citizens spoke up. And we are working on public safety measures of just our community, doing walks on our neighborhood. We are, everyone who has video cameras, we have text chains, email chains going out. But what are our leadership doing in the city to ensure safety, especially women and elderly? I do not feel safe going downtown. An 18-year-old girl was assaulted, and an intern, her parents who live in the suburbs, you know, think that their daughter is okay to go down to the city to learn, to work for free and learn a skill, and she gets assaulted on the streets by a person who is mentally not well and should not be out on the streets. So the same week, 2 weeks later, a 73-year-old man was assaulted in the very location as this woman. No one stepped in to help either one, and police were not present. Had we were, obviously this would have been different. But again, to your point, the lack of police presence, and that's my experience.
Okay, sounds good. And that's becoming a problem everywhere. Communities are having to kind of police themselves now because of lack of law enforcement. I know it's an issue in Fayette County, and I think it's across the country, officer retention and just getting applicants to sign up. I know the Pennsylvania State Police used to have maybe 10,000 applicants, where they're down to 1,000 now. And so it's just becoming a problem. Like you said, the communities just have no one to call and have to take it upon themselves. So that's a sad situation. And I think a lot of the policies that are coming down from the federal and from the municipalities sometimes are handcuffing the police from doing their jobs, you know, when they're not have enough to cover their zones or their control areas. So yeah, I agree with you. Claire?
So we had a few instances with safety on our parks. 3 summers ago, we had a child pull a gun, and we had another mom stood between that child and the other student. And then just a few weeks ago, we had another threat, another gun from on our park. And the first time, 2 summers ago, police response was very good within the 7 minutes. Unfortunately, this time, police response was about 30 minutes, considering we're Ohio-based, and it's only 3 and 1.5. So there happened to be some other incident that happened a few minutes after ours that I guess trumped whatever we were doing, or our peers. But my problem is with that specifically, I feel like the police, could have intervened, Chief Strata could have intervened with this child. Instead, they posted a tweet kind of denying my truth about the situation that happened. And so I just, refuting dispatch times and citing benchmark data and claiming that, people want to be a police, or what are we going to do, get the police upon? And if we keep on letting this narrative continue, well, nobody wants to do it. And but there has to be another way to look at public safety where we can shift that. I think we have a problem with being a data central culture right now, and then we have people in jobs who don't know how to interpret said data. And so they look at stuff like, oh, we're gonna take things off the street from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. because this one PD maybe showed that instead of, causation doesn't necessarily be correlation, and if the human experience doesn't match up with what the data is saying, then you're taking numbers over the value of people.
And I think what you're describing is kind of the trickle-down effect of the defund the police movement already, where many large municipalities have already started cutting their law enforcement budget, and therefore causing a shortage in that response. So,
And there's a reason that budget exists, because that, whatever your idea of public safety is, was working underneath that budget. So we need some way to rethink it, but I don't think it's let's just slash 150 million from this and put it somewhere else. I think it's, this budget's set up, let's figure out how to build a public safety department with what we have. And that means more police, I can realize that, but we have to find some sort of creative look, because this is like, oh, we just have not enough applicants, we only have two cops in here today, so that means there's 2 police officers something going through, right? So 50% of our force is taken out in one instance.
and we see how that's working in Los Angeles and New York. So, okay, thank you. I'm not the only member of law enforcement or elected official here today. We have current and former police officers, as well as Allegheny County Councilman at Large, Sam DeMarco. Thanks for joining us. Could you guys shed some light on what you noticed with crime and how it's being handled? Sam, start.
Let me just say, my concern as an elected official in our county is for the health and vibrancy of the entire county. And I believe that our number one priority, the number one responsibility is public safety. And I see public safety suffering here, because the city of Pittsburgh is the county seat of Allegheny County. In March of 2020, we had 1,000 police officers working with Pittsburgh Police. Today, it's just barely over 700. You hear folks talk about data where they think crime is down. But what's happening is the officers aren't responding in time. They don't have enough folks on the streets to the point. So a report doesn't necessarily get followed. They don't respond. That doesn't become a metric that then gets measured. And then they come out and the city will say, well, crime is down. So again, we're almost 300 officers down from where we were just 4 years ago. That's not acceptable, and I believe part of it is a result of when we talk about the police. In the wake of the George Floyd riots, we had elected officials, not just across the country, here locally, that failed to support our law enforcement officers. Our law enforcement officers became under attack. And I believe, to your point, when you're talking about the state police, used to have 10,000 people applying to positions, and now it's 1/10 of that. And I see that when I talk to my friends of the Allegheny County Chief Police Association. They talk about the number of officers applying for these municipal positions. And the concern is crime in the city is already reaching out into the county here. Something needs to be done, and I don't see the leadership here from a political perspective, locally, doing that. And what I see are Band-Aid being put on. We talk about the police being down on those 300 positions. They're disbanding the traffic division of the police. Here they're moving those folks to the zones. You hear the mayor talk about he wants to do traffic calm. I know how to calm traffic. Put a police car and a police officer out there. People will slow down, right? Things that all of us view as common sense are things that the elected officials that are in office today seem unable to grasp. It's very frustrating, and I will continue to fight for all the people here in the city and throughout the county to ensure that they get the safety that they deserve.
Thank you, Sam. There was something I was going to ask, and maybe one of the Tim or Todd can answer. Did the mayor do something now to make Pittsburgh Police like part-time somewhere, like things are now in some area? Is that something that's currently going on?
It's not really part-time. That was
Limited hours?
It's not really. So it's between the hours of 3 and 7 a.m. There's less officers on the street. So just 2 years ago, we used to have like a minimum manpower every single day. Throughout that night, throughout that time, there could be zone 2, there could be like 2 officers working the shift, and then zone 1 would be 2 officers working that shift. As long as they have a certain amount of officers that work citywide, so what they'll do is they'll pull from zone 6 and help zone 2 maybe work. So it's not part-time. there's the same amount of police officers on the street, just that are things in the street.
Anything additional?
What I'd like to mention is, let's talk about the defund the police movement. And what we're seeing here is defund the police by death by 1,000 paper. It's demoralizing police. It's handcuffing them by doing their jobs, whether it's the passing of city ordinances that where police officers are hampered from making more simple traffic stops. It's the speed bumps, it's the traffic calming. Those things don't replace, they're tools to a fully staffed police department. It's not an end-all be-all to the situation. And sure, you know, those simple traffic stops, how often they turn into something where you're making a more significant impact on the community by taking drugs off the street. And drugs, it has never been easier to buy drugs in the city of Pittsburgh than it is right now. Just by policy of the one-stop shop in the city of Pittsburgh. You come to Event City, you don't have to rent a room. Drug dealers don't have to rent a room or set up in a house. They don't have to rent cars. And everybody comes to you. And it's just normalized. I don't understand the progressives with their fascination with the drug culture at all. And it goes, and it extends to the open border policy as well on a national level.
Sir, if I have one.
Yeah.
It's not actually demoralizing officers. Back on July 13th, where you attempted assassination of President Trump on the Colorado County, you had a number of Pittsburgh City police officers that acted as escorts, motorcycle escorts, up to that rally. 4 of them were there, and some of them were actually injured. They were hit by shrapnel. The one commander, I had saw had a little bit of scar on his face. Another one hit the arm, not by a bullet, but by shrapnel, whatever they be. But what is the result that comes out of that? Instead of being supposed to be recognized for potential honor, what happens is they come back, they're disciplined. 2 of them are taken off of motorcycles. You know, have their cycles taken off of them and then shipped back to the zone. What kind of message are we sending people when we treat them like this? Which is really disappointing for me. To see the people that we asked to go out there, you know, to protect and serve us when we take and treat them like this. It's unacceptable.
No, I agree with you. Like you said, they just, it's demoralizing the way to get these down from there to do their job. Anyone else?
I just want to speak to our numbers that we have right now. So as of the 13th this month, we have 750 sworn officers, 18 chiefs and commanders, and 31 recruits still in class. That's two classes, I believe that was 31. So when I came on the job in 2016, we had, I believe, roughly 960 officers. So we're down to 715. We're losing more officers than we are taking.
Now, I was going to say, that's what you have. Is your complement still at 900? So are you just 200 short, or does the complement number change?
We were at 715, and what do you mean? I'm sorry.
Like Pittsburgh, yeah, are you budgeted for still like 900 officers and you're 200 short? So
Yeah, I'm
850? Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be 900. And that was the difference in the budget of that. However, in this year's budget, the mayor lowered that number to 850 from a budgetary perspective and said that he would take it back up. This is supposed to be technical, but you know, I don't see anything here that ever moves in a positive direction. I would say.
I was going to say, and we all know, dealing with executives upper management, once it's taken away, you don't get it back. So. Okay, you touched on a few different issues here in between violent crime and drugs. What do you think the worst problem we're dealing with is? And we'll just take responses from everyone. Doctor, we'll go back to you.
I mean, I think public health is a situation here. I mean, just from just people not being healthy or clean or safe and leaving that around and areas where kids can run into it, or other people can run into it, or pets can run into it, anything like that. I mean, a perfect example, I don't know, I'm sure people saw this last week. A woman was basically taking a shower on Stanley Street, right in the middle of the day, just with a high pressure washer, and she was just, it's an unbelievable thing to see in this day and age in a country like ours, that somebody would be just, it was just grotesque, and it was just great. There's no reason for anybody that ever saw that video to ever want to come downtown unless you have to. I mean, it's just a deterrent to be here.
And that goes for all business owners, you know, as I said, there's no one to come out on the street.
I'm going to speak on my knowledge. I've worked downtown, done for 10 years of my career. The homeless crisis, the mental health crisis, the drug crisis downtown. Like you said, it's so easy to walk downtown. I can walk out Smithfield and point out drug dealers left and right. I've arrested the same male 5 different times for selling drugs, and he sits in Market Square every single day. The soft on crime policies from these judges, that's the biggest crisis that the law enforcement is fighting these days. These people get arrested and then right back out in the streets, sometimes before we finish our paperwork.
Yeah, that's where that's like. So I've walked in many days and saw an overdose on the way in and an overdose on the way out, whatever. But the resources you use for that, you should have a fire come, you have EMS come, you have a narcan, you have a take it to the hospital, not all the time, but sometimes. But we always are crying more on money here. I mean, those calls, it was me having EMS and fire come, or them taking care of you, have to be a couple $1,000. I mean, these are all happening every day, all day long, at a clip of, let's just say, conservatively, you're having 10 calls a day at $3,000. That's $30,000 a day of resources you're using up from the same people over and over and over again, and they're not being a benefactor to the city at all. They're just dragging it down. The fact that people put up with this, the administration puts up with this, and they give them, I guess, a voice, and woe is me. I just don't see how that works.
And I can relate to what you're saying. We have the same complaint from our EMS and local police departments now in Fayette. You know, you're going back to the same house for overdose time, and you get to where they finally started leaving Narcan behind each time. You know, and hopefully, you know, we're not going to lose any life over it. But so that's tying up resources. You know, you're either escorting them to the hospital if they're combative, and then that's taken, like you said, somebody else out of their zone or out of their area, because some of the smaller departments, we may only have one or two guys on a shift.
Pour me some water.
In this department, if they're running with an ambulance tied up, then they're trying to get, you know, something happens there, then they're trying to call state police or a neighboring municipality that may have an agreement with that area. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that.
It just seems like a gross misuse of resources.
Thanks.
Right.
So the number one problem is definitely the lack of leadership and priority of the administration, the mayor, and the city council. If you look at what they've done, we've lost 200 cops in 4 to 5 years. The mayor has increased the budget of the mayor's office by $3 million for bureaucrats to sit around, shuffle papers, table stuff. We don't even know what they're doing. $3 million worth of bureaucrats in the mayor's office, where they could have been spent on the police this year. They spend money on, they hired like 150 public works people in the city of Pittsburgh. And if you look at our parks, you would never know. You know? So the number one thing that's for the city of Pittsburgh, what the number one problem is lack of leadership, the lack of priority to the administration and city council. And the city council does not hold the mayor task at all. That's number one thing in the city of Pittsburgh.
I'll jump in here, and I think with violent crime and drugs, mine's going to be the drugs. And it's all starting at our southern border. The Chinese are shipping fentanyl to Mexico. They're trafficking across the border, and mules are just running it everywhere across this country. Fayette County's been in a path to New York City. So you look at 107,000 overdose deaths resulting from fentanyl use, in comparison to 44,000 deaths by firearms. I know firearms seems to be the #1 issue of our federal government. Take the guns, but I think a little more resources sent to control the drug problem and the fentanyl overdoses. It's just it's one pill, one kill. It's basically what it comes down to. I know in Fayette County our overdoses went up last year from the year prior. I think obviously we're a small county of 130,000, but we had 83 fentanyl-related overdoses, and this year already we're at 41. And just the earlier last week, we had our local police department, our district attorney's office, seize like 935 sandbags of fentanyl and cocaine, and so that was just enough out there that would have killed a lot of people had it gotten into the streets. So, it was good work by them, and proud of our district attorney's office and our local PD. So, yeah, with me and where we're at, it's definitely drugs. Sam?
I'm going to say, I think, violent crime is one of the things that's most concerning. And we see, because of the number of police increasing, we see sort of a Band-Aid approach, a little whack-a-mole. So when crime was rising, violent crime shootings here in the South Side, they instituted the entertainment district control. When crime was downtown, it's prevalent, they instituted ethnic controls. Okay? But they're pulling folks from other areas. They're not really addressing the root cause or addressing the actual crime. And to your point, you talk about drugs. One of the things that's most prevalent for people, when you say, why go downtown, they talk about crime and homelessness. And when you talk to some of the elected leaders, they say, well, we don't want to criminalize homelessness. Well, I agree with that as well. Those will be criminalized. Okay? However, you need to address it because it's just recent arrests. Just last week, police arrested folks at a tenant camp for selling drugs. You have folks that are out there trying to charge other homeless people rent.
Try to keep the Duquesne sign, like right down there, right at the top. And you'll keep them in the middle.
And we take and enforce our ordinances against the rest of the county. It's not compassion to allow people to just live like that. Compassion when we take and direct the resources where we cause them to have. And I don't see the commitment of some of our elected officials to do that.
A couple of things to catch up here. What we don't talk about is for every video that you talk about, there's 5 other of the same incidents that isn't being caught. For every 10 encampment that we see as you pull off the Parkway, there are 2 or 3 more that you're not seeing, whether it's the jail trail, whether it's the West End, whether it's, wherever it is, there's the other ones that you're not seeing. Again, and I mentioned it before, it's never been easier to get drugs into the culture. And I need to speak to my own state representative who has a bill in the House to expand needle exchange, the open needle giveaway. And the same person who voted against putting, how can I share it? Is it xylazine? Is that the proper way to say it? The veterinarians are that Narcan doesn't help. It's being mixed with fentanyl or heroin, and when the medics come and try and administer Narcan, it's not being as effective because the xylazine is mixed in with it. she voted to keep that off of the controlled substances. Again, their fascination with the drug culture completely managed me. But Aaron and I have been in the West End at cleanup, picked up 5, 6 5-gallon buckets of needles. The organization that hands them out, they proudly tout that they've handed out 1.2 million needles.
Sorry, I know. No, I shouldn't interrupt, but it's more than that. It's 1.7 million needles that they distributed in Pittsburgh in 2023.
And the representative has a bill in the House to expand that statewide. So, Sheriff, that brings you to imagine driving into Virgin Run Lake and seeing tenant cameras and picking up needles all over the place. It's absolutely incredible.
So I believe it's an uninspired staff. Anyone in business knows that your most important employee is your first point of contact. And so we have this entire city, we have Gainey, we have resource, we have Parks and Rec programming of uninspired staff who are not building our cities great, who are not taking the initiative to intersect with kids, intervene with children. So that's where I feel like we had staff on our streets who were making the decisions and who cared about those communities. We have a police staff who's too lean to make the park safe. We have zoning who's too lean to make the streets safe to get to the park. We have Parks and Rec who's too lean to be able to run significant programming. And DPW, who shouldn't be too lean since they have all the staff, who's too lean, I guess, somehow to clean up the parks. So it's like you have all of these entities for like one location, yet none of them can seem to build enough and seem inspired enough to really want to better their surroundings. We can't get that. And that's across the entire country. So if we have all of the staff, who's our front door staff to our community, the President of the United States can say, I want everyone to collect tickets for putting 6 stop signs, but if the mayor doesn't say that's our problem, the commander doesn't say it's stop, and then that cost doesn't do it. It's just like, all right, so we have the policies here, but we can't execute them. We have the resources here, but we're not using them. And if we keep on lacking this inspired staff and this inspired people who want to build a great generation. Even in Pittsburgh, I mean, we have people in this city who built this entire country, and now we walk around and it's, when you take a walk and look at the disrespect we've given to everyone who's came before us. People have fought this fought before, and now we're, somebody worked really hard to make the riverfront trail a good potential. People, that was a really long project, and now you can't walk down without being slammed in from a fence because CXS had to put up a fence because there's so many homes, and now they live in a gated community on the riverfront, and we're all living in mortgages. We're going to keep that. It's just it's bad. And homelessness isn't criminalized, but if we don't do anything, we let it become criminalized. So nothing happened. They were doing it wrong, and they let them get to a place where now they are arrested. So they can say, oh, we don't want to criminalize. Well, you are. You're allowing them to become. You're cultivating situations where they then are producing crime, and now you are arresting them. So you're all you either do it in the beginning or you do it in the end, and I don't know if we're which way's up at this point, but I truly think if we don't start to get a inspired first point of contact staff, if we don't have police who really want to engage the community, if we don't have government who really wants to make our streets safe, then I don't know what to do.
You look like San Francisco, so I understand your frustration. It's frustrating. Thanks for that, Aaron.
Yeah, and Claire, to your point, and looking at a lot of the points, and I'm a city resident with you, I was very closely to you, my neighborhood is not too far from you. Back to the community organizing, I just got into this issue. They made me the chair of the community in Elliott because I started speaking up on these exact issues. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on in my neighborhood, everybody wants public safety. And I think to your point that we want to inspire people in these positions, but ordinary citizens like us are now taking these roles and stepping in. But we can only take things so far. We need our elected officials, even if we didn't give them the vote, to still represent all of us. And us taxpayers need to feel represented in this city. It just seems that so much attention is going to the Allegheny County Jail, to the people who are the not law-abiding citizens, and it's, what about us? It's one thing, when you're sitting on your porch and you're seeing the things that you never saw 4 or 5 years ago. I've lived in my house for 8 years. Never saw people walking around openly on drugs. Drug dealers literally doing drug deals where kids get on the school bus in the middle of the day. You know, and these drug dealers knew that we did not want them there. So then a few of us neighbors got into harm's way because they knew that they were not wanted. Then it became scary because, again, ordinary citizens are trying to fill the gap of what's missing in our city, which is leadership. So, I mean, again, with the encampment, and I want to speak on Narcan really quick. When we cleaned out the West End encampment, which, by the way, I can walk to it technically from my house, we have the city steps that are, a lot of them are broken and not working, but people who are on drugs are still going to use those broken steps. And we have them on ring camera next to people's homes in the middle of the night, just wandering around, probably casing the petty theft went up in my neighborhood during that time. But when we were pulling, we were living in a landfill. We were pulling piles and piles of wet clothes and belongings. Needles were just stuck to everything. It was actually very dangerous for just ordinary citizens and volunteers to even have to go into this situation to do this. The unused packets of Narcan that were found, I put them on a shelf. I found over 30 of them unused. Now, again, to the resources that you were talking about, how expensive is that? You know, and they're not even being used. And now I'm hearing that they want to put vending machines in them in our system of Narcan. You know, like, why are we not getting to the root cause of these issues instead of enabling these issues?
The 1.7 million neighbors you talked about, what resource did that, what community resource did that center?
So this one prevention point.
Oh, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah, but that was number 1.7. It's just not through my brain. That's why I know that number so well. But I mean, if you even calculate the amount of people in the city of Pittsburgh that live there, and then
I was going to bring up prevention point. You guys never looked at their website. It's basically do-it-yourself drug paraphernalia with drugs. Who's funding them? Who is?
they take donations. I've had several people who disagree with the work that I do in cleaning out encampments who make donations in my name. So I do. That's how I know that they take donations. However, you know, I think go ahead.
Well, I was just going to, I would implore everybody in here to just look at Prevention Point Pittsburgh's website. It's insanity if you look at it, what they offer. They offer tourniquets, they offer crack pipes, they offer all kinds of just paraphernalia. It's mind-boggling. For you to see it, it's just like it's like an ice cream truck. I mean, you can kind of get it anywhere. I mean, it's all free. And it's the only thing that they don't give you is the drugs, but I mean, who needs to give you the drugs if they give you everything else?
Well, to that point, I've interviewed some of these people who are on the street. You know, we talked to some of the people that live in the West End, and some of them told me, I said, well, where do you get your fentanyl? And he said, right there. And he went to it. They're right there in the court. They're right there. You know what I mean? So it's like how Todd said, you know, it's never been easier to get these drugs. So we need stronger trafficking, like go after the traffickers, go after the drug dealers. I mean, we have to start, you know, taking care of that, and then take care of the people who are on these drugs.
I can't sweat this. He's getting me.
I mean, I would like to see.
But there's no deterrence to not doing that.
Right, it's not
No,
permissive
it's like playing the Russian roulette with blanks. Nobody's afraid of the consequences of getting HIV or overdosing because they know somebody's in it. Either going to clean needles or you're going to get Narcan or somebody's going to show up. I mean, it's just, it seems to me that it's just, for a drug user, it seems like that it's just all fun and no consequence. That's what it seems to me. That says what
I'm sorry, Doctor. Going to what you said, the cost of business, and it's what I've said a couple times now, is all down. If you just go and somebody donates you a tent, there's plenty of places in the city where we can go and just have a tent given to you. And I'm a drug dealer, I go down, I set it up. Now I have no worry about being thrown out of my house, because, violation of my lease because I'm selling drugs out of the house. I'm not driving in a car, around in a car that I have to worry about being seized from the police. There's not enough police to catch me to begin with.
And you have to have
And
a
I
search
almost
warrant.
be, I'm out of the loop here a little bit, but, is there disciplinary action that's gonna come down on me for doing my job?
I mean, you need a search warrant to check the tent, correct?
Yes.
I mean, that's mind-boggling. If you're in a public property, or in a public park, you can just set up shop and nobody can look inside and you're selling drugs out of it. I mean, you basically have you're an entrepreneur, you have a small business, and nobody can walk in there and say,
There's no cost to doing business at
Napkin
all.
back
And
there.
then the people come to you, they're already in place, they come to you. And I didn't want to really give them credit, but Prevention Going Pittsburgh comes down, supplies you all the supplemental needs that you need, from the shoestring to hike your vein up, to the needles, to the alcohol wipes. How many billion alcohol wipes have we found? And the Narcan in case you overdo it, hoping that there isn't xylazine in it. I'm sorry.
No, I agree, that's what I said.
No.
Does anybody else have anything else on that? If not, now this is a question for all of us. Have you felt that things have gotten better or worse in the last 3.5 years? And then number two, do you have confidence in the current trajectory of our country, especially as it relates to crime and safety, from our current administration in Washington, D.C.? Go up here to Aaron, let's start this thing.
With everything that we've all been saying, I